All right, so as you can see, I took all the tape off of it and I cleaned it up real good, and I gave it an overspray of some clear lacquer just to kind of protect it a little bit. Not entirely necessary, but just take that extra step to try to prolong some longevity. Is that a word? Anyway, so when you're working in something this small, one of the things you need to be very aware of is the order of operations. What I don't want to do is put the chassis in and then put all the transformers in, because I still have all of this that I have to do on this side over here. I've got my fuse holder, my LED light, my on-off switch, and my power cord coming in here. And on this side over here, I have my output jacks. And if I have transformers in the way, that's going to make it really hard to get to. So the first thing I need to do is put the chassis in, obviously, and then I'm going to work on all of this stuff on the side over here, and then I'll deal with the transformers. All right, now these come with shoulder washers. It's really hard to see that on here, but it's a felt washer or plastic, and there's a slight little ridge on here that goes inside the hole. What I want to do is I want to isolate this from the chassis ground, because I don't want it getting the output getting into the input ground and the signal ground. I want to be able to direct the ground for this where I need it to, which is back to the screen node. So I put that in there this way, and the shoulders of the shoulder washer go in the hole, and it doesn't make contact with the edge of the lip. And then I'm going to do another one on the other side, because there's two pieces of metal here. So we'll do one on each. If I can pick this thing up. And now the tricky part. I always have a hard time with this. I like extra long power cords. This is a, what, an 8-foot, 10-foot power cord? 7-foot power cord. And it goes in with this power cord crimper grommet sort of a thing. And I have to get it in there, and in order to get it in there, it really has to be a tight fit, or this thing is no use at all. The problem is that it's a really tight fit. Now they make a special tool for this. Power cord crimper, grommet crimper thing. And you know, when you put your power cord in there, you use this special tool and it crimps it so that it's actually a little bit smaller, and then when you release it, it pops right in and it fits. Again, the problem is though, is I'm going through 2 layers of metal here. And so it doesn't always want to fit. So we'll see about this. Now the other thing is too, that because I like as much length as I can get on here, I don't want to stick this all the way in this far. You know, I want to keep this pretty close to the edge, right about there. As minimal as I can get away with. The power and the neutral are all going to go right here. This is going to go right here, so this is actually going to get cut short. And then this ground is going to go right here. Right here. I could actually strip this back a little bit more. I got to look and see what I did with this neutral. I think I just tied it together. But yeah, let's see if I can get this thing in here without too much swearing. Da, 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 da. That actually wasn't so bad, relatively speaking. I've spent half an hour or more in the past trying to get that in there. Cool. So our first signs of assembly progress. My fuse sign is all straight. Got my little switch, and this is up in there right too, and it won't even turn. I can't even, like, it won't budge. That's a good fit. These are flush, mostly speaking. This one I may have to play with a little bit more. I think it's down inside the grommet hole here, but we'll see about that. Cool. Next up, I'm going to do some wiring over here. I got a little bit of wiring I can do over here before I worry about transformers. Excellent. Very good. All right, one of the other things I can do while I have it in this state is I can put my tube sockets in. Now, one of the things I want to be aware of is how these lay out. You'll see that it goes all the way around and then there's a gap. I want the gap to be at the bottom. This is pin 1 and it goes all the way to pin 9. And I want 1 and 9 to face towards the bottom. Just like that. All right, well, picking up where we left off, some things that I didn't do last time is I have to wire these up here for power. Just make a few jumpers before I put the transformer in. And then I also have to add tag boards here. These are the tag boards. I'm going to mount my components on that. But I can't just throw that in there anywhere, because on the other side I also have to put up these tube guards. And as it bolts through, I'm going to use the same screws to secure my tag boards on the back side of this. And you'll notice that one is slightly taller than the other. I'm going to use this one for my EF80 power tube, the taller one, and the shorter one's going to go for my 12AX7 preamp tube. Now, of course, this lives on the outside. So, first things first, though, before I get all that stuff in, well, I can still lay this down flat, because once this all mounts over here, I won't be able to lay it down flat anymore. So I'm just going to go ahead and wire my jumpers up over here and be done with that. So we're going to take the power, the main hot, which is the black wire, to the fuse. To the switch. We're going to come out of the switch to the leg of the fuse, and then out of the tip we'll go to the transformer. So right now I'm just going to make a jumper from here and then from here to here, and we'll get to the rest of that later. Over here, oh shit, I still gotta look at that. But over here I'm putting on the ground, which is this lug and this lug, I'm going to strap a 150 ohm 2 watt, 3 watt resistor. This will serve the purpose of, if this amp gets turned on with no load on it, that will provide some sort of a load. It won't be a happy load, but it'll be better than no load at all. The output transformer and the tube that is connected to it has to see a load. Otherwise the tube runs wild and you can burn up the tube. So I put 150 ohm on here, and that'll put a load on the tube if you forget to plug something in. Now once you do plug something in, it's going to take the value of the least resistance, which is going to be either a 4 ohm or an 8 ohm, and this 150 almost disappears out of the circuit. The added load on here is negligible. So this is just a safety measure to strap across there. But I forgot, I do need to take a look at this. I don't think that shoulder washer is fitting in there quite correctly. So I will deal with that off camera before I tag in 150 ohm. But I am going to go ahead and jumper from here and from here to here, and I'll get my tube sockets and tag boards plugged in. Then I'll deal with this and put the 150 ohm in. So here we go. All right, so I've got two different size tag boards here. 1, 2, 3, 4 with a ground, and a 1, 2, 3 with a ground. I'm showing 4, but in reality I'm only using 3. Now I've also got two different size of the 3 board tag boards. If you look at how these are laid out, you'll see that they're different. I got 1 on this side and 2 over here. This I got 2 and 1. So I need, this is going to live like this. So actually it's this one that's got to go here. And then I need 2 on this end. So this one will live here. So my slightly used one will go right here. I misspoke a little bit earlier. I said I needed to strap this 150 across the grounds. That's not true. They have to go across the positives. So it's actually going to go from here to here. Double check that and make sure I'm not. I'm sorry, so I'm still wrong. From ground to positive on one of them. So from here to here. You only need to put it on one because eventually all of this goes back to the same coil. These are just different taps off of the same coil. And as long as it sees a load, it sees a load. So I'm going to put it down here just to keep it out of the way. And it's 150 ohm. My schematic says 180. 150 is fine. As long as it's 10 times or so more than what it ought to be. Let me see if I can find a 180. I don't think 150 is going to be that much of a difference, but forget it. I'll just do this. I'm not going to get all nitpicky about it. But one thing I am nitpicky about is I want to see the value. So when I put it in, I'm just not going to just throw it in any old way. I want to see the value. So it's going to strap across like that so that I can see it. All right, I am going to install all 3 of the transformers down below here. All right, well now it's starting to begin to look like an amplifier. Yeah. Now it really is. So, wow. Cool. This is green is the 4 ohm tap. The yellow is the 16 ohm tap. I've got them common together. I actually need to make another jumper that comes off of here. That's going to run to the screen node. Where am I putting that? Screen is here, so I could land it there. So I got to make it long enough to go around and land there. So I'll do that right now. What color is my screen node ground? Where's my thing? I want to keep everything consistent. So my screen node ground is white, right? All right, white it is. All right. All right, so just to explain a little bit here what I did with this power, because I didn't really go into this. We basically have two power supplies in here. We've got the main power supply, and then we have the filament power supply. The filament powers the tubes. It sends 6.3 volts to the tubes and basically turns them on. And then once they're on, they start heating up the heaters, which is why this is called a heater wire. They get hot, and the electrodes start to come off of the cathode. And once that happens, your tube is running. And then it's just a matter of sending your signal through it and pick it up at the plate, yada, yada, yada. Power transformer, filament transformer are paralleled off of the main power. So we got power coming in, going through the switch, going through the fuse, then the power supply, well, both power supplies. Now, because this end here is wired in parallel, I could have taken these two leads and landed it here and here. That would have been the same thing. I did land it here just because it's easier to get to. I don't know, wasn't thinking. I put it right there. Same difference, doesn't really matter. But yeah, I'm real happy with how this is going to come out. Now, the last but not least, to explain what's next is I'm going to slide this in so that it's in the right position, line all of these wires up in this little notch, and then line up, get a good guesstimation, because this is going to live right here. So I'm going to get this whole thing basically wired up outside of here before I put this in permanently. I've learned from the past that it's very difficult to solder that in when it's already sitting in here. I got to get behind this thing. That's going to be a little tricky, I think, but it's better than doing it when it's all in here. I can tell you that. No matter how this works, it's going to be better that way. So, that said, I'm pretty happy with this. It's starting to look like an amplifier. That's for sure. No doubt about that.